Vibha Kagzi. I'm currently an undergraduate at Wharton. It gives me great pleasure to open today's speaker series and hope you have a knowledgeable afternoon.
Okay, I'm going to start with introducing our speakers this afternoon. Sandeep completed his MBA in 2012 from the Stanford Graduate School of Business, where he was an R.J. Miller Scholar. Next up is Rohan Angrish, completed his undergraduate degree at computer science from IIT Mumbai, then went to Stanford for his master's degree in computer science, spent 2 years taking courses in varied disciplines. Next up is Revti, completed her undergraduate education at Stanford with a major in English, with a creative writing emphasis, and minor in communication. What made you go to Stanford to do your undergrad to start with? And at that point, did you know you'd come back and join the family business, or were your aspirations a little bit different?
In terms of why I went to Stanford, I think I always knew that I wanted to go to either Harvard or Stanford. And I mean, who wouldn't pick California over New England? And in terms of did I know whether I wanted to come back to my business, I don't think, I mean, you might think you know what the rest of your life looks like, but I think very few sort of 17 or 18-year-olds really know and can plan for what the next 20 years of their life is going to look like.
So, Sandeep, you'd already spent 4 years undergrad, then 2 years working. Why did you continue to stay in the US for your MBA? Why did you think of doing an INSEAD or an LBS?
I think US MBAs are definitely the way to go. Even though the European MBAs are very well regarded in Europe and Asia, I feel in the US, you don't really get a lot of credit for European MBA.
So, Rohan, IIT versus Stanford. Do a little bit of a pros and cons, some sort of SWOT analysis of the Indian system versus the American system.
So there's definitely a big difference in terms of flexibility. So at IIT, we couldn't choose our courses till the 4th year. At Stanford, right from the beginning, you can structure your own course, do what you want to do. So that's definitely something that's different. You can decide what you want to do and how you want to do it there.
So could we just run through people or experiences at Stanford that have actually led to some sort of culmination of a future move in your lives, like a career bent or a personal bent, something that's impacted your life straight out of Stanford?
So as a lot of you might know, the Stanford class size is a lot smaller than most business schools. We have around 400 students every year. So as a function of that, you have a lot fewer alums from Stanford. But what that leads to is because there's so few of us, I think the pressure to actually contribute to the network and be helpful wherever you can is a lot higher.
So my guide at IIT was from Stanford also. And his guide was still teaching. He was one of the senior most professors at Stanford. And I think he was the first to recognize that my heart really wasn't in a PhD. And so even though the offer was there, he said, if you want to do a PhD, you're most welcome to continue under me. I think he made me realize that what I wanted to do was go into industry. It's definitely a very, very useful network.
So Sandeep, you did a lot of things at Stanford. You're very, very active. Tell us about one activity that you enjoyed the most and why.
So I think the one activity I enjoyed the most was leading the study trip to India. I think just leading a trip from Stanford opens up a lot of doors that I think day to day you might not have access to certain political leaders or business leaders that I think through the trip I got.
Can you compare and contrast working in an environment where you're professional in a global top firm as opposed to then working in a family business sort of setup, and sort of the pros and cons for people here who might want to work outside in a professional company then jump back to their family businesses?
I think the key difference is that when you're working for someone else, when you leave your job at whatever 5 p.m., 8 p.m., midnight, you leave your job, you come home and you're sort of on your own time. When I leave my job, I'm still, it's on my mind continuously.
So when you're working with someone else, there's a problem and you're solving the problem. You're managing a problem. When you're doing your own thing, you're managing people. And it's much more interesting and infinitely more hard to manage people than it is to manage a problem. Your problem, when it's solved, people are continuously confusing.
How important do you think it was for you all to start early? How early did you actually start considering, thinking about the application process, colleges? How do you sort of navigate the process?
I think the advantage to figuring that out ahead is that you know the challenges of the application, and it gives you the time to build up your profile and to add things that you may not have done were you not considering it.
You should think ahead in advance, but you should also keep your options relatively open. You don't want to decide 4 years from now, I want to go get an MBA, because that might not be the right choice for you 3 years down the line.
grad school, especially grad engineering school, is different from undergrad and business school in the sense that that's very subjective. You've got to really make a strong case for yourself. You've got to sell yourself. You've got to sell your life up to the point where you graduate. And with engineering school, it's very different. It's just numbers. If you're good at what you do, if you're amongst the top few that are applying, you get in. So really the work that you've done is all of your courses and your classes, you're just doing well, you're attending your classes and doing well in your exams.
Please demystify recommenders for the audience and just talk about maybe your experiences with recommendations. Who did you go to?
Pick someone who knows you really well and can actually write like tangible experiences of what you've done with them. Secondly is pick someone who can actually write a good recommendation, who's like, and someone who actually take the time to like write a good recommendation. And third, I would say is avoid people who tell you to like write the recommendation for them and they'll sign it. Because I think invariably like they'll miss out on a lot of insights that other people have about you, but which you don't have about yourself.
Build a personal relationship with the person who's going to write your recommendation, because if they don't know you well enough to write something unique, it's not going to stand out.
It's definitely true that you want to get the recommendation from someone who knows who you are, definitely as a student, potentially also personally, because that also makes a difference. I mean, when you're getting admitted into a class, if someone says, okay, not only is he a good student, but he gets along with other students well, helps out, is basically a team player.
We all hear this, and I'm sure a lot of the undergrads are hearing this and the MBAs are hearing it as well, like find the school with the right fit for you. Please demystify the Stanford right fit for all your programs for the audience.
The thing is, paradoxically, that particularly for Stanford, there is no right fit. If you're an individualistic person, if you're someone who is not afraid to go against the crowd, to let loose, to stand out, to have fun, you're the sort of person who belongs at Stanford. The other important thing is that you can't be sort of unidimensional. You can't be just a good sportsman, or you can't be just a good dancer, or just a really good student. You have to be something else in order for them to sort of see you as adding to the diversity of the class profile.
Yeah, I think the people who get the most out of the experience and kind of add to the class are people who kind of have like a strong set of values coming in, but at the same time are open-minded and are willing to entertain different perspectives.
I think going in with a mindset of having no fixed mindset, if you can do that, and you're right, if you're used to being told what to do, it's not going to work. They're not going to tell you what to do, and that's true of most universities, but definitely universities like Cal or Stanford, no one's going to hold your hand and tell you what to do. You make it what you want to make it.
Just your concluding remarks, any final words of advice for students, maybe for the parents in the room, some words of caution that the parents should adhere to?
You should be realistic about the schools that you can go to, look at your own profile and understand your own strengths and weaknesses. But aim a little bit higher than what you think you can get, because you'd rather know that you gave it your best.
Also, for the parents, I would say is let your child like pick the schools they want to apply to and not the ones you want them to apply to.
So you definitely need to be someone who can make decisions for yourself and then stick with them, even if they don't work. Because when you're there, you're on your own. You'll have friends to support you and advise you and guide you, but you're the only person that's going to face the flak for what you're doing. So yeah, you've got to be an individual, and I think everyone here is smart. You guys know what you want to do, which is why you all are here. So yeah, I think as long as you keep your eye on the ball, you should be fine.